I love your optimism, sir. But I'm also concerned about the realities on ground.
Yeah.
I'm going to take you back a bit to the issue of to the attempt to Nigerians. Britain that colonized us, as we speak, is rethinking its togetherness. Scotland is saying we don't want to be part of this. Even California, when they got tired of Trump and his ways, they're pushing for a kind of referendum to. Can't we? Is it possible to run our different to run our race on different lanes and still be together? Is it possible?
I think that we can have a proper federation and it can make things easier. I think that, again, as Arema Oshoba said on that program of CVL, Nigerian History Series, the benefit of hindsight, Aburi was the best thing for Nigeria. The Aburi Accord. For me, it really comes from a very simple problem. A focus, obsessive focus in Nigeria on sharing rather than on producing. You see, most of this restructuring, we don't want it, we want it, we want it. Many of the people participating in the conversation are coming from point of view of what can we take that we did not produce. I'll give you an example. My friend General Babangida is the cause of most of Nigeria's problems. You see, Nigeria used to be pretty, wasn't completely okay, but people were comfortable with running a federation. In fact, I tell you a story. One of my great mentors was the great economist and first chief economic advisor to the Prime Minister of Nigeria, Dr. Pius Okibo. And I used to sit with him for long hours and he would tell me stories of decision making in the Balewa government and all of that. One of the stories that he told me that I still reflect on with a bit of an amusement is the steel story. As he put it, the federal government decided that steel was very important for Nigeria's development and that it should try and get into steel production. And they did the feasibility, where was coal, where was iron. Okay, so decided to locate a steel mill in that place where it was most efficient. At the National Economic Council meeting, which was a meeting of the Prime Minister, the premiers, and the technocrats, the chief economic advisor or economic advisor, permanent secretaries, and so on. The issue was put before the premiers by the Prime Minister, Balewa. And the premier said, if you're going to build, you're a federal government. We're doing things, the region develops its own. If you're going to build a steel mill as federal government, then you must build one in every region. Then the argument went on and on and on. They were so exasperated. After a while, Balewa asked all the technocrats to leave the room. They left the room and the politicians continued for a very long time. Then they called back the technocrats. And Balewa announced that the federal government would now build a steel mill in every region. So he said he looked at Balewa because he knew it was practically, it was not economically sound. And he said Balewa looked away. So after the meeting, as he was walking towards the Prime Minister said to him, Dr. Akibo, the powerful premiers have had their say, we will have our way. Mr. Prime Minister, what will be our way? Dr. Akibo, we will do nothing. And so the Balewa government chose to therefore put the idea of steel development on a back burner. That's how Nigeria missed the steel age. By the time oil money then came and we had plenty of money available, the one administration began to think steel. But by now we were 10 years late. There was a steel glut globally. So when we approached the great steel mills in the West, they said, when you can pick up steel on the streets of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania for nothing, how can you want to invest in steel? So we insisted, no, if we don't want us to develop, so we turned to the Russians. That's how Ajakuta started as a Russia project. Now, once the Western civil works companies, Fujirol and Co., saw that we were going to do business with Russia, and they knew that, they don't have to bribe us better than the Russians, they said, okay, well, we can do you this civil works, we can do. So we began to share the thing. By the time we knew it, we had created a tower very well in Ajakuta. So, the spirit of federating or federation, which forced the kind of conversation that Dr. Okibo was sharing with me, was a spirit that drove Nigeria's early ascendancy. There were two American scholars who worked in this area out of Michigan State University back in the late 60s and 70s, Robert Melson and Howard Wolpe. They wrote a book on modernization in Nigeria, in which they basically said that those who charge tribalism don't understand what they're dealing with. That what was happening in Nigeria could not be called kind of base parochial tribalism. What it was competition between ethnic nationality groups on who would most bring progress to their people. And Melson and Wolpe described this process as competitive communalism. And that the effect of competitive communalism was actually growth and development in Nigeria. Obafemi Awolowo is challenged by the decision of the Nigerian Broadcasting Service at the center. And the new technology that was coming out, was called television.
HomeVest is a development by RealVest, which has taken up the responsibility of providing quality, flexible payment and affordable homes for Nigerians, both at home and abroad, especially UK, US and Canada. This provides Nigerians with a plan that enables them to become house owners in 7 years or less, with payments from as low as 50,000 Naira monthly. You can move in on completion of half of total payment. We have over 14,000 investors and subscribers from 13 countries, including UK, US and Canada, who have enjoyed consistent returns on investments with us. Our pilot locations are Lagos State, Ogun State, Kwara State, Imo State, Oyo State, FCT Abuja and Delta State. Take advantage of this opportunity and become a house owner today. Choose HomeVest by clicking on the registration button now. Exenic is a UK representative and marketer of HomeVest in UK and Europe. For further inquiries, send text to this WhatsApp number +447 983 439 082.
I've been leapfrogged to it. And suddenly the first TV station in all of Africa was in Ibadan. WNTV, first in Africa. Of course, the Premier of Eastern Region could not manage this indignity of falling behind our law. So before you knew it, Eastern Nigeria Broadcasting Service had its TV service. And because WNTV was first in Africa, I lived in Ibadan in the 60s. So I love that, WNTV, first in Africa. Bara's own was second to none. This was the beauty of our federation. But the military damaged this in this dangerous alchemy, as I call it, of the convergence of soldiers and oil. Soldiers, because military structure of its nature is centralizing. So the thing that allowed that debate, that argument between the premiers and Balewa, which I described from Okibo earlier, could not take place under the military. When a general asks a colonel to go and be governor, he calls a meeting, what do you think the colonel will do? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that, compounded by the fact that now oil was bringing in so much money going to the treasury. When oil was first discovered, it was collected by the regions. Payment was not to the federal government. The region will collect and send 50% to the center. It now became the center collected and gave a proportion that was reducing at the will of the soldiers. At a point, they got to less than 2% really, to the place that the oil was producing. As Kalu Dikakalu disclosed at one concerned professionals lecture many years ago, we, all kinds of things. By the time we are submitted to special projects, Ajakuta, aluminium smelter, all the special projects, and then you shared what is this formula they had, less than 2% went to oil producing states. These are the things that led to frustration. When people then started struggling to reassert it and say, no, we want, we say, oh, we can't give you 13%, we can't give you. So the whole idea of restructuring then became about sharing. But this is not what restructuring really means. Now, the problem with this whole restructuring as sharing oil money is that it's a mute question. I don't know how many of you saw Total's last annual report. They said they were discounting all their crude oil assets in Canada to zero 18.5 years from now. That is, in their projection, oil would have become a non-economic factor 18.5 years from now. From one of the world's leading oil companies. So, if all this our quarrel and fight is about who will get more of the revenue from oil, first thing is that it will soon be irrelevant. 18 years is a very short time. The second thing, besides the fact of its onrushing irrelevance, is that even with the oil money today, those who have tried to keep the most of it have become poorer. Not occurred to you. See, let me put it this way to you. In the 60s, there were more local governments in southern Nigeria than there were in northern Nigeria. It was just an administrative convenience. The federating units were the center and the regions. No local government was involved. So local governments created, regions created as many local governments as were convenient for them. So in the south, they chose to create more than in the north. After the reforms of 1975-76 under Obasanjo, the Dasuki Commission and all of that on local governments, Nigeria chose to go to a new formula in which the local governments had become a federating unit in the fiscal arrangements, so that 20-something% of all revenues that goes into the distributable pool fund will go to local governments, and then the states, and by 20-something%, and then the federal government. What this means is that because when Obasanjo began the local government reforms, the powerful people were the young colonels in the army who were mainly northerners. And each one made his village a local government. They made until Nigeria now has 774 local governments, and more than nearly 500 of those 774 were in the old northern region. From a situation, complete opposite reversal. But guess what? Check who is poorer today, the north or the south. By far the north. The lesson, this is what I want people to understand, is that it's not how much money you get. Progress is not a function of sharing. Progress is a function of production. Nigeria is not the first case in history. Throughout human history is there. Countries like Spain, with the conquistadors in Latin America 300 years ago, made so much money from gold being shipped back in. There were small countries like Belgium, the Netherlands, and all of those countries, you know, in the economics that we all grew up being taught, land, labor, capital, they were so disadvantaged that they're not supposed to be the ones that can make progress at all. But Spain is today far poorer than those ones. Why? Because those ones focused on production and investing in their youth, their next generation, the education to be able to produce better. And as they got richer, Spain got poorer. This is the fundamental error of the kind of trajectory Nigeria has been traveling, by assuming that they get better by getting more revenues. What has happened is that those people have suffered from what we like to call the lottery effect. I don't know if you've seen a poor man who won the lottery 10 years after. It's poorer than when you won the lottery. So this is really what the case is. If we change our mindset, we will understand that it is better for all of us to live together than to live apart. But if we live in a proper federation, everybody will look at their comparative advantage, and in fact these days, better still, their latent comparative advantage, and can become globally competitive, and we can prosper together.
Thank you so much, sir.